Okay, today we're going to be looking at the Onkyo TX-NR626. The 626 is £500, which is right on the sweet spot for AV receivers. Oh, that'll do. Okay, so let's get it out of the box. So this is the remote control. It's nigh on identical to the 2012 model, to be honest. The next thing I can see is the all-important calibration mic. It's got the Audyssey writing on there, obviously, which is the EQ and calibration system that Onkyo uses. Next up, there's some paper instructions, also the manual on a disc. I can see that it's the same manual for the 525 and the 727, which are the models either side of this one at £800 and £400. It says the quick start guide there if you don't want to get involved with the manual. And last but not least is a aerial for the tuner. Oh gosh. Okay, so we've got the 626 out of the box. We've got it here on the bottom, and on top of it we've put last year's 515 model, which originally came out around the £450 mark, so a similar price. The 626 is £500. Though the 515 is now subsequently cheaper. We've got it out just to show you the difference or not in terms of styling, and also have a look at the inputs and various features. So on top of the 626 here, we can see some of the logos. There's Dolby True HD and Pro Logic, DTS HD Master Audio, Audyssey Multi-EQ Processing, Onkyo's QDO Video Processing. There's Cinema Filter, which is Onkyo's audio processing. HDMI, of course, referring to the HDMI inputs. RDS for tuning in radio stations. And the two new additions are Wi-Fi certification and Bluetooth, because the 626 has, for the first time, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in. Taking a look at the front of the amp, you can see the style and design is pretty similar to last year's model. Or last year's range of models, I should say. You've got a similar display which shows which input you've selected. Now, it might not look much, but the design of these keys has changed ever so slightly. They were more curved on last year's range, and here it's a more angular button. As you can also see on the display, we already have the Wi-Fi logo illuminated, which shows that obviously the Onkyo amp has sniffed out our network connection. Next to it there, I can see the Bluetooth lettering, so clearly there's a light for that too. If we come down here, you'll also see that there is no HDMI/MHL input for connecting smartphones and tablets. But don't worry, this is just now round the back. Previously it was on the front, now round the back. Also different on the front, you've still got the headphone input, but if you come to this side, you can see that Onkyo have added a stereo input, nice and easy to access on the front there. And also I note that the USB input no longer has iPod written underneath. It says in the specs that it's a USB input for media playback from flash drives. So we will have to get to the bottom of whether it's iPod and iPhone compatible in the full review. Now, taking a look at the back of the 626, we can see all the inputs. Again, fairly similar to last year's 515. There are 6 HDMI inputs and 2 outputs. Now, another new feature, a big one for this year on this Onkyo amp, is 4K support. So the HDMI inputs do 4K upscaling and 4K pass-through. The 2 HDMI outputs also support audio return channel. And lest we forget, they of course support 3D content too. You can also see the speaker terminals. This is a 7.2 channel amp. So here are all the terminals and also your subwoofer connections. Also nice to see is that the Zone 2 speaker connections have been upgraded from basic by-wire cable connections to these banana plug connections. The Ethernet connection is in a familiar position for Onkyo amps. You'll notice there's no second USB input next to it, although I guess this is kind of explained by the fact that that was mainly used for Bluetooth and wireless dongles, and of course the 626 now has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi built in. Also here are a selection of the normal legacy connections. There's composite video, stereo analog, and also component video connections. And a new feature, which is quite nice, is a phono connection. So you can connect a turntable directly. Last but not least, there are also coax digital ins, a solitary optical input as opposed to two that appeared on many of last year's Onkyo AV receivers, and also the RI remote control connection. So that's a quick first look at the Onkyo TX-NR626, which is Onkyo's new £500 AV receiver for 2013. Now there's lots more to talk about. There's also Spotify built in, tune-in radio, the ability to stream from DLNA devices, and lots more, which we will look at, of course, in depth in our full review coming soon.